Hey, what's going on, everybody? All right, I'm going to bring the music down, and I'll come on over here. How's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. You'll notice a new camera angle, and that is on purpose because of today's topic. So let's get into it here in a minute. But this morning I logged into, first of all, I can't, somehow vMix loaded without me being able to hear my audio. So I need to pull open the live stream and just have a quick little listen. Okay, so that actually sounds pretty good. Let me know how it sounds on your end, and I will turn it on my phone just so that I am for sure able to follow along and make sure that we're able to hear all the way through. One of these days, I'll get the audio figured out, and we'll sort that out one day. But I'm expanding the streaming setup so that it works a little bit better for what it is that I want it to do. Now, in the past, I had my camera mounted kind of up next to one of my monitors, but now I've kind of moved back to a teleprompter idea. And I'll talk a little bit about my integration of that in just a second, because I think teleprompters. All right, so I think teleprompters are really the unsung hero in live streaming. And there's a good reason for that. I'll, again, get into it soon. And then I'll talk about which one that I bought. And quite frankly, spoiler alert, it's not a very expensive one. So it just needs to do the job that I need it to do. And I'll talk about a couple of trade-offs that I have with a teleprompter. But what I love and what I grew to love when I worked at BirdDog was having a teleprompter where I could kind of see the lens behind the screen, behind the glass. And but so I knew exactly where to look. But then I could also show my image on screen so that I could see my positioning and actually see what it is that I looked at. So in my streaming brain, there are multiple things going on all at once. And oddly enough, and a lot of things about the stream, but there's a lot of things also going on, randomly in my brain. And so this gave me a good way of making sure that I could communicate effectively, but also be able to see my positioning, because I was a one-man band and still am. So this is going to be a fun show because I haven't done a teleprompter show since BirdDog, I think, and that was quite a while ago. That I worked there almost over a year ago now. So really cool stuff there. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to jump in the chat and let me know that you're there. I'm going to get over to the actual chat window so I can see what you guys are talking about. And I'll throw that up on my screen. Randy has joined us, and he is indeed first. So bravo. Well done. And welcome for being first. And he reports the audio sounds good. Fantastic. That's what I wanted to hear. We spared no expense, so that's worth it. Jono, hey, what's going on, Angus? Hopefully you're doing well. Thank you for checking in while you're driving. I'm not going to be super interactive today, but I am here. Well, I really appreciate the effort that you've made to join us today, because that is a big deal. So I really like that. I learned some great new software. It's called On Time, free open source show run software, stage timers, backstage countdowns, you name it. Well, that sounds like something we need to check out, because I'm always looking for tools to put into my toolkit, but also about anybody else's. So that's great stuff. I do have a second camera angle now, which is terrible. Which shows, it's just a webcam, but it looks like this, and it's a secondary shot, and it's here underneath my monitor. Now, I might actually move it, but you can see how you can see like everything in my office, which I really hate. But if I need a secondary shot, it's actually mounted to a magnet, which is then mounted to the pole mount that I have for my 3 screens. And so the pole mount is metal, and the magnet mount is a little L bracket, and then it has a little threaded mount to the bottom of it. And so I can actually, let me see if I can show you. The magnet is ridiculously strong. There it is. So here's the magnet here, and the little webcam, which is just the classic Logitech 920, 930, somewhere in there. old school, but gives me the versatility to kind of snap this anywhere as long as the cable for the webcam can reach. So ideally, I would use that as an overhead cam, right? So if I wanted to do something on my desk, I could just snap it up on like a piece of metal and then point it down, and then I'd have a nice clear overhead cam. So I might end up doing that. I want to position it here. It's a little high and a little crooked. Still a little high. But I do like the magnet mount because I can just snap it wherever I want here. I'll put you back live and kind of mount it wherever I want and have a pretty good headshot. So I'm going to try and obviously match these two cameras. And I like the way that the RP is situated. This one feels a little high. So let's try and get that microphone kind of right in the middle. Also, it's just a totally different angle, like it's just a totally different type of shot. Two very different cameras. One has a really nice lens. One is far more expensive. The body of the RP is, I think, $800, and then the lens that's on there is also another couple $100. So we're into $1,000 camera rig just with the camera and the lens alone. But the reason why I bought the RP is it was mirrorless, and it gave me the opportunity to use it as a USB webcam right out of the box. Now, there is some trickery that has to happen in order to use this camera as a webcam, but it does work. Unfortunately, the feed, if you don't want to pay Canon more money, which is pretty annoying that they require that. I'm just going to angle this a little differently. It's a little annoying that they do that. The fee to make it 1080 is $80 or something like that, which just seems so stupid. So I'm actually going to wait. There are a couple of ways around it. First, you could spend that $80 on a HDMI to USB input for your computer, and you could come out of the camera HDMI, which is 1080, and convert that, or you could just get a better camera. So I don't know what the fate is. I'm still waiting on a couple of things that I have working in the background about maybe getting a different camera. I do like this shot, though. I do like the way that, and I actually kind of like it the way that I have it set up for this show, because it's a similar shot and it forces me to actually talk to you inside the camera. So I kind of like it. So more on that in a second. Now let's talk real briefly about first and foremost, vMix kind of screwed me over this morning. I have, not the company, just my program, and which probably is something I did, but I'm going to blame vMix anyways. So I have everything saved in a configuration file for vMix, and this morning at about 9:35 Central Time, I logged into this computer and clicked on that configuration file, and it said all of these items are missing, which was really annoying. So I actually had a previous import file and clicked on that one, and lo and behold, everything was there where I thought it was. So that's cool. At least I was able to recover fairly quickly. But man, I was annoyed because I thought I had it all good to go. It was like one click and everything kicks on, and I wanted to add this second camera, but I, lo and behold, then needed to do about 10 minutes of fixing. And then I realized, I haven't hardlined into the main system downstairs, so I need to do that and ended up running around. You'll notice I'm dressed differently today than I normally am. It's because I have a meeting that I have to go to right at 12:30, so this can't go long, which is why I'm talking a little bit quicker, because I want to cover everything that we had talked through. So, Angus, I want to check on that software and kind of go through it, but it'd be great if you could let me know maybe a week that you for sure will be around, and then I can have you contribute to that conversation about that software. But I will check that out because that definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in. Now, the next thing on the list is, where was I last week? Well, there was really like no indication as to where I went, what I was up to, where I, no explanation. So long and the short story is my grandmother passed away at the age of 98 and basically of old age. She lived a very long life and had Alzheimer's for the last 10 years. And so that was hard to watch her kind of decline cognitively, but her body hung on for a very long time. And so she did finally pass away last Sunday morning, I believe it was, like a week ago Sunday morning. So a whole week of funeral planning, I grabbed a quick plane ticket that got me up to Toronto. And then we had a couple of days with my family in Brampton, which is where they live, and then funeral in Brampton. And then I flew back basically right after the service. So the service was on Saturday, and I flew back to Tennessee Saturday night so I could be in attendance on Sunday morning at the soundstage, which is where I work. So it was a very quick trip, but it was great to see my folks. My sister came up from Texas. My brother lives in Brampton, and my folks live in Brampton. So it was a great excuse to go and see them. And then at the memorial, this side of the family I haven't seen in many years. Let's put it that way. Double-digit years. So many of these family members, at least 10 years, and many more than that. So great to see folks. Always a good reason to celebrate the life of my grandmother, but then the legacy that she also left with all of us there. So it was great to be there, great to participate. And overall, a really great few days spent with my family celebrating my grandmother. So that's where we were. That's where I was last week. I was on a plane, and actually I was in Toronto by the time this show would have started, but I wasn't feeling well. So I didn't end up doing anything even while I was there. And I should have, but I didn't because I was losing my lunch. So I'm back, and that trip was fantastic. I'm now home, been home for the week, getting this week ready, and I was watching a YouTube video. Here's where the concept for this show kind of came around. So watching a YouTube video and saw a guy just briefly mention, I use a teleprompter just so that I can see my notes. And it re-sparked something in my streaming life about using a teleprompter. Now, I had a teleprompter when I was in Clarkston, in Michigan, and I used it, although I was never quite happy with the way that it looked or where it was positioned, because when I'm operating at my desk, I have 4 monitors, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 monitors that are all around managing different machines. And then I was using a little mount, actually the magnet mount that I just talked about. I was using that to host a 5th screen, which originally was for my teleprompter. And as I was watching a brief YouTube video, I realized, I really need to dig out the teleprompter and set that back up, because I think people who live stream but don't talk into the lens of their camera, they kind of miss their audience a bit. They miss a connection point with their audience. And so I find, and now we're going to get into the meat of today's subject, by the way, and really apologize, folks, because I've got my socials channel. I've got my socials channel kind of up in the wrong spot. I actually need more desktop space. Believe it or not. I've got all sorts of things going here. So I'm not looking at your comments directly, but now I am. All right. So the meat of this today's stream is about why you should really consider getting a teleprompter for your live stream or for streams that you're doing. And if you are doing talking head type of stuff and you are trying to connect with an audience that is not in the same room as you, all right? And it's not you necessarily trying to connect, but it is, more likely your speaker, your subject, your keynote is trying to connect with an audience that isn't in the same room. You really want to speak through the computer or through the screen that they're watching you on to the person. And there's no real better way in the public speaking realm, which is actually, by the way, one of my degrees from college. In the public speaking realm, I studied it. I'm not perfect at it. I should reference that. Because I say uhs and ums and likes a lot. So something I'm working on. In the public speaking realm, one of the things that they teach you is to connect with your audience in your nonverbal communication ways. And so one thing they say, for example, is to use your hands in gestures, but not pointing. So if I'm like, you should be getting a teleprompter, that's very different than if I say, you should really be using a teleprompter. See the different, and actually regardless of politics, one of the things that happens with politicians is they're on screen a lot and they're recorded a lot. One guy that was really good at nonverbal gestures to create connections was Obama. He was really good. He would do this with his hand. He would do this where he wasn't doing this, or he wasn't like moving his hands around and or like, pointing and doing various hand gestures like he's guiding in an airplane. He would just do this. And so did Bill Clinton, by the way. You go back and you look and you see him talking. He would take this weird hand gesture, and when he wanted to make a point, he would use his hands. So nonverbal connections with your audience becomes very important. And if you're live streaming, but your camera is kind of not focused on you, and even if we go back to this shot and I'm talking to you, but I'm talking like this and I'm looking at my screen and I'm making sure I'm in frame, but I'm not really looking at you, right? Like I'm looking away, I'm looking at my screens and I'm doing this thing. If I'm not connecting with you in a way where you can see me and see the things that I'm talking about, it actually distracts your viewer. It actually disconnects them from being able to follow you along. And so with the word salad that I end up using all the time, and I try not to use big gestures. It's kind of nice with a close focal length lens like this one, is that I can talk almost directly to you, but obviously you're not in the room with me. So it makes it actually feel quite natural. And if you can train yourself to talk to a lens, then that's extremely helpful. Now, confidence monitors in the traditional world were used to show your notes. And so if you were going to read something, like if you're not comfortable on cameras, for example, and you wanted to read your, if you want to have a script or something, you wanted to read, so I just want to check the stream health. If you just wanted to read a script so that it appeared that you knew what you were talking about and you didn't stumble through something, confidence monitors are traditionally used for those items where you can put your words up on the screen and then just kind of read along. And there are various ways of achieving that. In particular, Central Control has a teleprompter option, which is an amazing piece of software run by a guy named Joe DeMax, and I can't say enough good things about that product. I used it briefly at the end of my tenure? I don't think that counts. My 6 years working at Bird Dog, I had about 6 months worth of Central Control. Thank you to Joe DeMax for supplying that, but also Jake Feynman, who set that up, who is also no longer at Bird Dog, but a good buddy of mine now. So we used Central Control, which had an actual NDI teleprompter, which means that you could output a teleprompter through an NDI feed, and then you could send that NDI feed wherever you wanted. And I had an NDI teleprompter from Telscript. Now, if money is no object, I really do recommend getting a Telscript teleprompter, because I can advocate that they will hold a heavy PTZ, say P200 or P4K camera behind it, and it will show NDI feeds on the screen. Now, it also does SDI, HDMI, and a variety of other things. But those actual Telscript units were great because you could send the screen, had an NDI decoder in it, and you could decode full NDI or NDI HX. So then you take a program like Central Control and you send NDI out to that, you output NDI, and then you link the screen to that NDI feed, and then you could run your teleprompter that way. Now, inside Central Control, just to give a little bit more context, you would load your document, traditionally a Google Doc, into the teleprompting software, and then it would read it. And you could set it to auto scroll, or you could set it to scroll based on a keystroke or based on a timer, or what. There are a lot of different options to have your script scrolled through on Central Control. And so that was a really great little piece of innovative software. And it allowed a lot of people to film themselves on camera and feel confident. And so I used it a few times for training videos. As many of you know, I'm not necessarily a scripted, for better or for worse, not really a scripted type of guy. And so I actually found teleprompters to be more useful in watching the output of my show in vMix. So here's how I have this one. Here's how I have my personal teleprompter set up, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the workarounds for this. Now, I don't have a Telscript teleprompter. If anybody from Telscript is watching, which I'm sure you're not, feel free to send one over so I can review it again. No, I already know Telscript teleprompters are fantastic and really great stuff. I used to know the guy over there that sent it to me. I've lost his contact information since I left BirdDog. But great company, great guys to work with, but not cheap. And the reason is because you're buying a really nice screen, and you're buying an NDI decoder, and you're buying a very high quality piece of glass and housing and metal framing and the whole 9 yards. But if you don't have that sort of budget, you can get into this for about $150, and I'll tell you how. You can buy the unit that I have is a 12.1 but 12-inch teleprompter, and I bought a screen that is a 1080 screen that outputs a computer screen. Now, you can do that a couple of ways. I'll get into that in a minute, but essentially it's a 12-inch teleprompter, and what I'll do is I will throw that up on the screen so that you can see what it is that I'm talking about here. So this is that 12-inch teleprompter, basically the same one. It's a different name, but it is identical to the one that I have. Doesn't come with a tripod. It is just the unit itself, so don't get too excited. It does come with that gray case, which I have here on the couch, which has some cheap foam inside for transportation, which is nice. Not required. And once you get it set up, you may not want to change it. But here is that teleprompter. And mine's a different brand name, but it is literally the exact same product. So it's just an OEM selling it under several different names. Mine is not this one, but it is literally this exact unit. So 70-30 split glass, which is nice, allows your camera shot to come through and for the reflection to not be seen, but also be fairly clear. I actually find that this glass is brighter than the Telscript glass, oddly enough, and it doesn't seem to impair my image very much, right? So if I go back to the camera shot here, you cannot see what is on my screen, but I can see myself, and I'll talk about how that's being done in just a minute. So this is the teleprompter. It's meant for a iPad, and then you can buy iPad software that acts as a teleprompter, and then you can, scroll it forward with your watch, or you can scroll it forward with the remote control or whatever. Various ways of doing that. But in my instance, I'm actually using this as a way for me to see what is being shown on vMix. So I'm actually seeing, excuse me here, I need to fix my glasses. I'm actually seeing the vMix output on my screen. And that's very handy because definitely need to be able to see what it is that I'm looking at. But when it's a full camera view, it's literally just a picture of me. Like I can see the blue image, the blue background, I can see my face, I can see my microphone, all of those things. And when I explain this to people, this is how it is that I normally do live streaming, they get a little gun shy, mostly because they don't like to look at themselves while they're talking. Well, trick of the trade is I'm actually not looking at myself. I'm actually trying to look for the camera lens, which is behind the glass that I can kind of see. But if this was further away, if I had a longer lens in it, if it was a different camera, I might feel differently. But I did the exact same thing when I was at BirdDog. I would output the NDI from vMix, and I would send that to the Telscript NDI screen. And then I would be able to watch myself on camera and make sure that I'm in frame, that I'm not moving around. If I change, for example, something on vMix, I can see now that the desktop is basically the thing that you're looking at with the little side shot of me in the corner. So it's a way that I can verify what it is that I'm shipping out of vMix, as well as making sure I'm in camera, because as I said at the beginning of the show, I am very much so a one-man band. And so I'm doing this all myself. I'm controlling it all myself. I'm pressing the buttons all myself. And I want it to look as seamless as I possibly can. So this gives me the ability to make sure that my camera angle, while I'm looking at the camera, is correct, which is kind of two birds with one stone. Now, it took me a little while to get used to talking to myself on camera. Oddly, though, not as long as I thought it would. It did take a little bit of adjustment, and I probably need to move my light. Things are not perfect, but it did take me a little bit of time to figure out how to do this. But once you get the hang of it, once you're used to seeing yourself, then it's totally okay. Now, the issue that you have when you start doing this is forgetting where you are in your conversation, in your train of thought. But if you have an idea as to where you want to go with your thought process, then it's not quite as awkward. And what I really like about this is when I look away from you, I'm actually looking, for example, at the chat. And so if I wanted to put up something in the chat, it makes sense that I look away and I turn that on and then I look back at you. And then we can see what it is that was said. That makes more logical sense on camera than it does for me to kind of be in a permanent position like this and be looking off and, oh, hey, how's it going? Even though I say something like, hey, Randy, good to see you, if I'm not looking at you, it feels very disconnected, doesn't it? So if I pull this up, if I pull up Randy's second comment, hey, audio is good, and I say, oh, audio is good, great, thanks, Randy. That is much different than me saying, oh, great, audio is good, thanks. Like that disconnect, just that little travel of, quite frankly, I don't know, less than 10 inches off camera makes a huge difference. And so if you're listening to somebody give a live stream and they're not actually looking at you, then that becomes a bit of a problem. So how are we accomplishing this? Because as you guys know, I run multiple computers now to do this live stream. My old PC that I used to use for vMix, that was struggle bussin', now generates a lot of my NDI sources. For example, camera 1, which is this camera, is generated there, but also camera 2. And so camera 2 is also plugged into that old computer and then is being put through a program to generate it into an NDI source. So as we want to generate both the camera angles as NDI sources, and then we bring them over the wire. Now, this computer is not plugged into the internet. The old computer, the old vMix machine, is not plugged into the internet. It is strictly on the NDI network, and it's connected via 1 gig SFP. So it's coming over the 4250 that I have running my NDI network is issuing a DHCP addresses. And so this computer is it's a 10 dot address, so 192.168.10. The big machine is 10.10, and the older machine is 10.11. And we're generating those sources on the 10 network and then shipping them over to this network, again, on that 10 network. So this computer is generating those NDI sources. But vMix is also generating an NDI source and shipping it back to the old machine. So what I'm doing here is I'm streaming out of vMix to YouTube and Twitch, and then I'm also generating the output as an NDI source. And I open Studio Monitor on the old computer and view that source there. And so now I can see the output of whatever it is that I'm doing on that computer, and I'm able to switch between them and know exactly where it is that I need to look. So teleprompters are a great little tool because they definitely give you the ability to kind of seamlessly connect with your audience and not necessarily have to do a whole lot of hoop jumping. You just need to be able to see what it is that you're showing. So I have Studio Monitor open on my old computer, full screen, and I just selected that source coming out of vMix to Studio Monitor. So easy setup. It's basically we're just watching each other's NDI sources, and I'm able to actually monitor the show in real time. So this little teleprompter screen that's on this unit is the monitor for the old computer. Now, I'm doing a couple of other things with that computer for control, and I can show you that here over on this desktop. Let me open that up while we're busy doing that. So as you know, Screen Capture, which is a program that I'm running on both of my computers, offers a KVM option, right? So inside, if we go now to, this is, Screen Capture that's happening on that machine. and you can actually control what is being shown. So here I can show this. I can change the actual source on that computer using the KVM option inside Studio Monitor. So you turn on KVM controls on screen capture, and then you open Studio Monitor on your other computer and say KVM control. And now you basically have a remote system where you can control the other computer. So I want to say vMix. I want to see the vMix output on this teleprompter, and then I'm going to remove that because we're going to get doubling effect. And now I can see that you're looking at my desktop shot, and then if I change it here, it also changes it on my teleprompter. So really quick and easy way to get control of your other computer, because otherwise, by the way, I would be controlling it in a teleprompter and, well, let me go down there in a second. But otherwise, I would be controlling it while looking through a teleprompter to control the screen. Now, that's not really the end of the world, but it's a little annoying because I don't really want to have to do that. The problem I have with the screen that I bought, and I can show you that in just a second here. So I bought a little screen that was like 11 inches that is 1080. And that's really the catch, is you want to be sure that when you buy a teleprompter screen, you want it to be small enough to fit inside the teleprompter, but also the right size. Where is it here? Small enough to fit inside the teleprompter, but also 1080, because your little monitor is going to tell your computer what resolution to send. And so you want it to be 1080. Now, if I could just find it here. Here it is. Okay. So this is the little screen that I bought. It wasn't $150, but I bought this back in April of this year because I had a previous screen, which was not a traditional resolution. And so I wanted this screen because it was 1920 by 1280 or 1920 by 1080. And so I bought this little screen thinking this will be great. The issue is that it does not have a mirror effect. And when you put a screen inside of a teleprompter, you have to mirror the screen in order for it to show text correctly. Everything's backwards, essentially. So if you can't flip it, and it needs to be flipped on the vertical, is that right? So vertical like this or horizontal? No. Anyways, you have to be able to flip the screen. And this little screen actually doesn't let you do that. It's just a standard screen, which is why I had it mounted here just as my monitor for that computer. It is a little small for that function. So if you really wanted a monitor for a computer, like I'm running three 27-inch monitors for my main machine and another 27-inch for the Mac that runs here for my work. So this little screen, kind of hard to see text. I'm getting a little older. My eyes are not what they used to be. So this little screen is a little small. However, for using it for this function to make sure that I'm on camera and lined up correctly actually works great. So it's a great size for this, works really well, which is where Studio Monitor with KVM control comes in handy, because then I can open Studio Monitor and I can control the whole screen without any issue. I can set it up how I want. It shows it correctly, so I can just get it all set up and then I can show it on the screen. So that has been an interesting learning curve, but now that it all works, now that it all kind of makes sense, I actually really like this. And what I like the most about this is I can put my camera in a place that seems a little bit more natural than in between two monitors or underneath a monitor. Now, yesterday I had this all mounted on a different tripod stand, and the whole mounting system was actually a little bit too heavy. So there is some weight when you add a screen, you add the weight of the teleprompter, and you add a camera, you're going to be putting all of that weight basically on one point. I do like that there are multiple mounting points on the back of this teleprompter. Okay, there are multiple screw holes of multiple sizes, which is really nice. And so depending on what type of tripod you have, I just have a traditional threaded, camera tripod. And I'm able to, it has a quick release on it, which is very nice. So I can just pop that off, put that on the bottom of the actual teleprompter, and then snap it into the tripod. So very quick, very versatile, and the ability to set that up very fast. So I do like that. On the bottom of this cheap little $80 teleprompter, there's definitely ways to mount it that make logical sense. But the weight is something you need to consider. And so I have a heavier duty tripod that I bought off of Amazon that has a nice swivel head. And that's where this is going to probably live for the majority of the time because it's able to handle the weight just fine. So I do like that a lot more and seems to be working in my setup quite nicely. And like I said, I do kind of like this angle where I'm just almost at eye height. I'm not looking down on you, but I'm also not doing this number where I'm looking way up into the sky. Whereas on the other camera, it's kind of this weird like wide shot. And so I almost need to get it between the monitors or something like that. I don't know. I'm not convinced that I love where it is, but it is what it is. So still waiting for a monitor with a hole in the middle for a lens. Oh, that'd be interesting. Like a monitor that's basically that you can mount a camera behind it, but it's a little bit transparent. It's not a bad idea. That would be cool. I'm sure it's bound to happen, especially for gamers, right? I know that in traditional streaming, like if you go on Twitch, it's expected that the gamer's not going to be looking at the camera. But if they wanted to talk to their audience, that might be a feature that would be desirable. I watched a pretty common YouTuber the other day. I won't name names just because people get all sorts of ideas in their heads. But I was watching a YouTuber who was doing a report on somebody, and I noticed that she was changing camera angles and following the camera. And I'm pretty sure she's a one-man band. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure she produces her own show, one-man band. But she was changing camera angles and following the camera. And they're to the same camera, so it's the same rig, but following the camera and talking, doing like a talking head that was nice up close and personal. And then she had one that was a little bit further back that showed more of like a full shot, not head to toe, but waist up. And I don't know what I thought of it, because I guess I was expecting her to have camera one. And as you remember from my bird dog days, maybe you don't, from my bird dog days, I would talk into camera one, and then my other cameras would kind of change on a playlist, right? So in vMix, you can run a playlist and put all your cameras in the playlist and tell each camera angle how long to stay. And I had like 4 or 5 cameras. I had 5 cameras in there, but 4 of them were on me. That sounds vain. So all these different angles, but it was providing context for the show. So I had one that was directly on. Cam 1 was directly on me. I had another P4K that was further back that showed the entire studio, showed the entire rig. And that one only stayed for a couple of seconds, maybe 10 seconds or 8 seconds or something. Then I had one that was to the side that was sitting on a windowsill, actually. And that one just showed a side angle. But when we changed to that camera, I didn't look at that camera. Like I didn't hunt for the tally light. I just let them go and continued to talk into cam 1. And I felt like that was the natural way of watching the show. I could pull this up on YouTube, I guess. I think all those videos are still there. But it was the natural way of the way that camera angles work is that they don't really expect you to watch watch the hunting around for all of the different shots. So it made more sense for me to stay on cam 1, and it would always come back to cam 1 after it went to something else. So it went to the far shot, and then it came back to cam 1 for like a minute and a half, and then it went to a side shot, and then it came back to cam 1 for a minute and a half. And I could stop the playlist and put on an overhead shot or do whatever I needed to do, but that was the common way of following me on camera. So I don't know how I felt, not that she consults me in any capacity ever. She never met me. She doesn't know who I am. But like switching to camera angles and watching, looking in the lenses, it just didn't seem natural. It kind of seemed like she was changing her focus in an audience than more than she was talking to, somebody watching online. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I'd be curious to know how you feel about that. Whoops. Now there was one other thing I was going to cover here, and of course now I can't remember. So this was the product that I was using this wasn't it, but this was the product that I am using in the actual teleprompter itself. So this little screen, it just doesn't flip. You could buy a device that flips the screen for teleprompters, but it's just one more, thing in the chain, and that seems like a lot. So I'm not going to do that, but it is what it is. I actually, I can get away with knowing that this is actually a reverse image that's being shown here on my screen. Again, not a big deal. But if I want to control the old vMix machine, I just open Studio Monitor with KVM and I can just control it in there. And that's fairly seamless and works very well. I also, as many of you know, use Google Chrome Remote a fair bit. And so that's a great little program. I use that to manipulate computers in other places in the world, in particular, at the soundstage. And when I'm working with other churches, I'll send them a Google Chrome Remote link and help them out that way. So that's a pretty standard way that I connect to computers. And this computer has that. However, there's no internet. So I actually can't connect to it because it's isolated on the 10 network, which is my NDI network. So what I do there is I just use the power of NDI, and I'm able to remote in and control things fairly well. All right, I'll go back to that teleprompter real quick so that you can see more of that. Now, it does have a 14-inch model, which I did not get. I got the 12-inch and worked pretty well. It's just for my little in-home studio here. This is literally what it looks like on the side. This is what my DSLR mount looks like. And I don't need the little HDMI screen because I can see myself just fine right there. So it is designed for an iPad. I do have the 12.1 iPad Pro. So I've never used it in there, but 12.1 or 12.9. My iPad may not fit, but that wasn't my intention. I didn't buy it for the iPad. I bought it for a little monitor. So it is true. It has this little slide tray, allows you to kind of lock your stuff in there. I can see the whole screen, although it is kind of on an angle, which I think is odd. Okay, that kind of fixed it. And they do have a teleprompter app that you can use that does flip the script inside the app. That's nice. So now, is it the nicest teleprompter in the world? No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, I would consider this a fairly basic bottom of the barrel teleprompter. But does it do what I need it to do? Absolutely it does. And that's really what matters the most in your streaming situation. I don't understand it, but people get caught into this world of, I need to have that latest thing. And you really don't. You need to have the thing that works the best for you, that gives you the angle that you need or want for your production. And I can get away with, I think total I probably paid $150 for both items, for the screen and for the teleprompter itself. Just wait until Black Friday or something if it's not an imminent need. But I prefer teleprompters because you can see what's being shown and you can verify that you are on screen. And quite frankly, we already use a lot of those with front-facing cameras. We already use the concept of teleprompters all the time on our phones because you're watching yourself being recorded. It's just a matter of looking at the lenses. Now, what I hate about phones being like recording is it still looks like you're not looking at the lens, right? Whereas a teleprompter is far enough away and I can look at what would be my right eyeball, okay, the side with the light on it. Or I can look at the lens and the difference is like there, I'm shifting between the two. You can see my eyes moving. Like it's very minimal. And if I was really smart, I would just line up my eyeball with the lens, which is what I used to do at Bird Dog. But, I kind of slapped this together a little bit quickly. But I already had a teleprompter, and so it's nice to have it kind of all set up again, have it all working again. And I do need to level it a little bit because it's a little crooked, but it works really well. And I personally think that when streamers or videos or interviews or whatever, you're doing this as a single talking head, I think looking at the lens is the right way to do it. And it's actually kind of difficult to get somebody to look at the lens. And so one way, like if you were interviewing somebody, for example, is to have a camera on you and a camera on them and put your image on the screen and say, just talk to me on the screen. And that way they're not looking at themselves, right? Because that gets a little intimidating if you're not used to that. And if you're doing run and gun interviews all the time and you don't have time to train somebody and really hone them in on this skill, you may just put your own image up there and interview them through the screen. And you might sit next to this whatever, but you talk into the camera and then they talk into the screen and respond to you. And that way you can both be looking into the lens when the interview is going on. The traditional way of doing that is obviously having somebody looking at you next to the camera. And so it'd be kind of like this, where you would be interviewing somebody and they would be responding to you, but they're not actually looking at the camera. Now that style works pretty well. People are pretty used to that. But I also think that if you're trying to create a personal connection through video, there is nothing better than actually talking into the lens and having a good camera and lens to accomplish that. So that's what I like about my current rig, is it seems to work really well in that regard. Okay, so that's my trip to Toronto. That's everything I have to say about a teleprompter. You can seriously get into the game for under $200. All right. I did spend a few dollars on a nice HDMI cable, but that's not required. And it's just a long HDMI cable, which is braided and everything. So it's a nice addition. I also have an extended USB that plugs into the camera. So again, these are things that make the camera work, make the screen work. But many of us have HDMI cables laying around. If you need something longer, okay, you might be 220 into the game if you are maxing it out. But you seriously don't need a super expensive one. I can speak to this particular teleprompter for $80. It does what I need to do. And it comes with a carrying case. So if you want to pack it away, or you're not going to use it all the time, or you can't leave it set up on a permanent tripod or something like that, it does come with a case. Breaks down pretty easy. The whole glass comes out. Everything's Velcro, so it all breaks down. And you can load it into a case that fits into a tote or whatever really easily. So, and it's padded. It has some foam in it. It's not the nicest case either. It's not the nicest tripod, but does it do the job? Absolutely. And it came from Clarkston all the way down to Tennessee, and it didn't break, didn't have any issues. I seriously have had no real problems with it. In the Clarkston house, I was using this on the vMix machine, and of course I had dual GPUs in there on the original vMix machine. I hadn't built this one yet, and so I actually had a screen duplicator mounted to the bottom of the teleprompter hardware, and then I went in DisplayPort, and then I broke out DisplayPort and HDMI, and I duplicated one of my screens. That was okay. But this, I think, is much simpler, works a lot cleaner, and I'm able to still do all the NDI stuff that I need to do. So there is that. All right, and we're done 10 minutes early, unbelievably. So I do have a place that I need to be today, so I will wrap this up after the 11 o'clock hour Central Time here in the U.S., but I'd be happy to discuss whatever you'd like to as well. Tom Sinclair did a show yesterday. He's in the middle of restoring a vMix Go system, which I didn't even know that existed. But basically, it's like an all-in-one rig. Man, there's the thing that I want to talk about is always like front of mind, and then it disappears. So it's really annoying. Which I'll have to just talk about next week if I don't remember it this week. But Tom did a show, and that was definitely something that you should check out. He is Eastern Shore Broadcasting on YouTube or The Streaming Idiots. So always good there. I didn't see Anthony Barocas' show, but he is also... Oh, I know what it was. I didn't see Anthony's show, but I think he did one this week. He's always reviewing stuff, and his subscriber account has like jumped to 2,000 subscribers. So well done. He gets his hands on a lot of gear. I don't know how he does that, but he's always reviewing something. So the thing that I wanted to say is this. So somebody recommended that Bird Dog get back in the game. And although I don't necessarily want to replace my show with something else, well, look at this. Dan Mile is going to do a AMA. They're not calling it Bird Dog Live, but they're saying it's live on Bird Dog. All good. So join Dan to chat about our latest products, the new range, how we have changed our release strategy, HX versus full NDI, and more. Ask me anything. And then in the comments, he said, well, almost anything. So this is going on. Now, it looks like it's going to be October 7th at 5 p.m. So everybody's getting off work, maybe driving home. That might be a good time. He did mention in the post, however, that, hey, guys and gals, it's time. I've been threatening to do a regular live stream for ages. There's so much to talk about, and so I thought rather than a webinar presentation thing, we could just see where things... So I thought rather than a webinar thing, we could just see how things goes. Ask me anything, well, almost. I'll have gear set up, some tech to showcase, opinions to share, and most importantly, I'm ready for questions. Looking forward to seeing you all online next week. It'll be live on the Bird Dog user group exclusively, so please feel free to sign up and recruit any of your friends. So pretty cool. They're gonna fire up a live stream, which is something I think that they should do, and of course I would. But I think that they should definitely do that and make it a regular weekly show. The only comment that I'll say about that is doing a weekly show does take a high level of discipline, which I think they have, but it takes a high level of discipline to do because there are months where nothing is happening. And so you have to come up with content. You can't just sit online and do nothing for 20 minutes, which many of you have struggled through many of these shows where we end up really doing nothing, but you need something to talk about. And that was something that Josh Bernstein, who was a late addition right before I left to the Bird Dog team, he was there for about a year, he was an advocate for is, look, have a topic, have something you want to talk about and present on it, and then take your comment section and go from there. So I agree, but that requires work. That requires you to do something, to think about it, to think of things that might be interesting, people might want to watch, and to kind of go from there. So right before I left, like probably in August or September, Josh and I were talking about making a segment, like a segment of a show where I don't take comments, I don't put anything up on the screen, I just talk and teach, and then I stop it. And we did that for a little while, if you remember. Did that for late last year. We were doing that on the show and then cutting those segments and posting those as individual, helpful tip things. And so again, it's a great idea. It takes a high level of discipline. And in order to grow like a reoccurring group of people that will come back and watch, you have to be consistent. I was fortunate enough to do that twice a week, where if you didn't come on Tuesday, you could come on Thursday, and we'd have a show. But you have to be consistent. You have to try and be online as often as you can. And really, out of offices, vacations, and funerals are the only time that you aren't going to be streaming. So even holidays, you try and stream something, which we did in the new year before the office reopened. We were trying to stream fairly religiously. So I'm excited to hear about this announcement. I'm excited to see what it is they do. This would be on Tuesday, October 7th. So that's Monday, actually, right? Let's just look at the calendar real quick here. So the 7th at 5. Yes, that would be Monday at 5 p.m. So that is a time slot that nobody's actually using kind of in the world of streaming. I am on Thursdays, Tom is on Wednesdays, and Anthony is on Tuesdays. So that works pretty well for, if Bird Dog's going to join a thing. That means that I'm going to have lots to talk about as they talk about things. So we will see. There's no indication as to is it an hour? How long is it going to be? Maybe he's just thinking it's just going to go until I'm out of things to talk about. Depending on who you have on the show, you might be 20 minutes every week, because people don't necessarily chat all the time. So as we know, where is vMix Socials? Oh, here it is. Okay, so yes, exactly. It also requires, Chad makes a good point, it also requires ignoring the chat for a while. So, but anyways, this is an interesting announcement, and I will be very interested to know how this goes. So mark your calendars, everybody. Monday night, Eastern time, that would be, he's got on here 5 p.m. Eastern. So I realize that's pretty early, 8 a.m. to kind of get up and going, but that was always the issue when I was streaming at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. All the Australians were asleep, so we could never really have any of them on to join us. I'm going to add it to my calendar just so that I remember. Bird Dog live stream. Whoops. And this is online. This starts at 5 o'clock. Oh, that would be, Central Time. So that'd be 4 o'clock my time. Oh, that's convenient. All right. So we'll add that. And boom, there it is. So we'll jump online and see how that goes. It should be fun. Good job, Bird Dog. You definitely should be streaming. And I hope it goes well for you. I really do. Hopefully you have large droves of people turning out to see what is going on at Bird Dog. And it's true, the webinars were helpful, like when we used to do webinars and presentations. The problem was that the Q&A, what I felt was the most important was interacting with the audience and the customers themselves, and so gives them a chance to ask questions and do all that sort of good stuff. So, hey, that's 1 p.m. for me, PST. What's going on, Zach? Good to see you. Yeah, that's perfect time for you. That's middle of the business day. I actually kind of like that it's 4 o'clock because that means I'll still be sitting at my desk more than likely, unless my family comes home early. But it'll be good to hear from Dan and the Bird Dog team once again and see what they're up to. So all good. All good. I'm going to just listen to the show real quick because I'm curious. Things still sound pretty good. Whoops. Sorry, everybody. Let's scoot this forward. Okay, cool. Yeah, all good. Still sounds good. I don't know what happened here, but my audio sounds really nice today for some reason. So everything blew up on me except my audio. That seemed to stay intact. So, and good morning. Good morning, Zach. Hopefully you're doing well. It is almost 11 o'clock here in the great state of Tennessee, and we are, going to kind of wrap things up here because I do have somewhere I need to be. Actually, I have to go into the office, into the soundstage. We bought a new set of lights and a DMX controller that's going to be done via USB on one of our Macs. So here's a brief summary. We were running off of a older analog board that was DMX 5-pin to 3-pin, and that was fine, except something's been going on the past couple of weeks where the lights are intermittently flashing, and they stopped doing that when we disconnect it from the lighting board. And so I suspect there's something wrong with the lighting board. Well, the owner of the soundstage says, well, I do have this other device, that's more, it is USB driven. It's more like current century. The issue is that it's not really, because everything is driven lighting wise. Like if I was to install a lighting rig, I would use Light Key. and you can even get away with 24 inputs for free. So until you get into moving heads and RGBs and a whole bunch of stuff like that, we're just using white light. We can do all of this with power and DMX 3, 4, or 9 channels. And to do that, all you really need to do is you daisy them all together, you put them all in the same channel, and then you turn them on. So today we have a USB DMX controller that we're plugging into a secondary Mac that runs most of our secondary backup stuff. And on that Mac, we will basically load our program and run lights that way. So pretty excited about that because it does mean that we can automate some stuff. Like I can make a macro that fires the lights and turns them on. So that's cool. I think I'm looking forward to making this feel more legit and a little bit more techy and having lighting cues. So like when we show a video, we can take the lights down a bit. And when we show something live, we have the lights on. We can also then isolate lights so we can turn them on or off individually, which is nice, instead of basically just having analog faders. So I'm pretty excited about it, actually. I think that it's going to give us a lot of like customization that we've been needing for quite a while, but have been lacking in figuring out how to do. And really it's just the restrictions of the board, so I'm excited to kind of get on board with all of that. Yeah, that's good. I would still do a few groups so that you can adjust sections. Yeah, well, so that's what gives us the luxury. So I did download Light Key. Anyways, I downloaded the software. It recognized my controller right away, and then it said how many lights are in this group, and I said 6, but it's actually supposed to be 8. And actually, let's see here. MacBook. Okay, so this is actually here. So let me log into this real quick, and I can show you. Light Key should still be running. I'll put it here. Chrome Remote Desktop wants to use your zones. Okay, so it is running. Here is, come on now. Okay, here's Light Key. So this is, I'm remoted into the machine in Nashville, and I've just put in 6 lights. Now we can change that array if we say edit, and we click on these lights, or maybe it's back one. Where are we here? Light number 6. Edit, show DMX output, fixture, show fixture manager. So we click here and I say, where is it? Output settings, serial, blah, 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 blah. Shoot, I thought it was right here when I added it. Well, anyway, it's here somewhere. Oh, it's here. I want to edit this. Edit profile. And then it should say like how many lights. Beam, 4 channel, which is I believe what it is, but we'll find out today when we get there. Okay, no, that's not it then. I don't know. Anyways, I haven't mastered this. I haven't mastered this software yet, as you can tell. But if I click done, does it say? Why doesn't it let me do that? 4 channel, 3 channel, previous mode, next mode. It is 4 channel. How do I get out of this screen? I have no idea. I don't want to delete it, but oh, there. Get info, edit, duplicate, delete. If I just say get info, patching. Ah, here we go. Okay, so there are 8. And then if I say done, doesn't want me to be done. So anyway, you just put how many you want in there, and then you can just then add it to your stage, which is pretty nice, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a very simple, but all I'm doing is saying there are eight in a row. You are required then to angle them, to say like what angle are they at. And again, I won't be able to like really do, oh, there we go. I won't really be able to do that until I'm there to see. But you can just add all these to a group. And then we just say space, align, space to the center. Nope. Distribute. That's the one. And I want it on the horizon. So come on. Distribute horizontally. Okay. Didn't like that. So I need to individually space these out now. So if I do this, I put one there and I put one here, and then I say distribute horizontally. Oh, it doesn't like that. Alrighty. Well, anyways, I need 4 to be there and the other one to be like here. They are evenly spaced. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, there's more than 8 here? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. All right, so now put them all in the same line, highlight them all. I will play around with this and then distribute horizontally. There we go. That looks a lot better. So that is the way that this is set up. And then you take each of these lights and you say beam direction. And then you can tell it like, okay, I've got this on a 60-degree angle or whatever. And that's like shooting across the stage, right? I won't know those angles until I get there, but there you go. So light key, pretty great. And it's a free little program for the basic, which is, I think, 24 channels, light key. For 24 channels, it recognized my DMX controller right away. And so we're going to go wire these up and get in control of these. A lot of DJs use this. The paid-for version gives you a ton more channels. Like you can get up to like 512 and more. And so there's lots of options there to expand if you're needing a DMX USB lighting rig. But it's pretty great. So DMX runs off a single wire daisy chain through each light, and when that wire gets too long, the signal can reflect back along the cable. The reflection can cause the light to hear a ghost on-off command, causing them to flash. I would make channel 1 put 2 on them, and then channel 5 for another 2, and so forth. So I see what you mean. Well, we will see, because, I guess the reflection idea, Chad, makes sense as to maybe that's what our issue is because it's 11:08. Oh, okay. I got some time. The reflection would make sense because when we plug it into the board, then the connection is, made. Although it just kind of started recently. like we had run this for like 2 or 3 months, and then it started flashing the other day. And we took half of the lights out of the string and then plugged it in, and it kept doing it. So, I don't know if that's what's going on, but we shall see. We do need to kind of figure things out here. But I do have 24 channels. I've got 8 lights, so I break them up into groups of 4. That would be, if it's 4 channel, that would be 16, right? So that might work. Matter of fact, if I click on Dunzo here and I go back to, can I go back to wherever it was here? One thing I will say is that it's not obvious sometimes, like where to go. Okay, here we go. So yeah, see, this is using 4 channels. So what you're recommending is that we break them up and put 2 lights on each channel, and then we would have zone control plus. That's interesting. So if I do this and punch this here, patch 2, address 5, count 2, patch 9, count 2, yoink. So if I had 4 groups of 2, like this, I could still technically have 2 more groups. So like if I had, well, anyway, yeah. So that's basically all we're running right now. And I told the guy that I'm working with, I was like, the problem is, oh, you guys can't see this. The problem is that that's why I need a teleprompter. I wasn't looking at the teleprompter. The problem with it is we're going to end up liking it and then expanding. And he was like, that's fine. I was like, all right. It's best practice to put a terminator in the output port of the last light in the chain. Yes. So if you have some hotspots, you can have a bit more control. Fascinating. I mean, this would give us control to dim the outsides of the stage independently. It's pretty cool. Yeah, okay. Well, this is going to diversify our stuff a lot. Like, I should do this. Patch and patch. That would be all 24 channels. And then, so like this. Count like that is what we need to do. So whoops. Oh, shoot. I didn't mean to do, well, whatever now. So this is center. And where's center? There's center. So like this. And then you have P3 like this. P4. Or do you put 3 and 4 together like this? I guess it depends on which zone you're going to cover, right? What part of the stage you're going to cover. Anyway, something like this. I'll sort out these details when I get there, obviously, but then maybe we'll bring this back up next week. You say distribute horizontally, which they were already aligned, but anyway. Kind of like that. You can also just make this truss a little smaller because that's really how that is. That's cool. Anyways, I really like this little stage design program because not only then when you click done, not only does it give you the option to, oh, whoops. Also, why can't you adjust the beam here? You know, like beams. I want to adjust the beam here. Why can't I do that in real time? Maybe I can and I just don't know. Dimmer control, color, clear properties, beams, all beams. Yeah, that's silly. I want to be able to control the beams here and not have to go into the edit screen. But my typical was to have 3 lights per zone, 1 straight on, 2 at 45-degree angles, and then have some of them less bright to give faces more Bapadoo. Sorry, 1 second. Let me get over here to give faces more depth. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. Well done. Similar to, key and fill lighting ideas in 3 points, which is what I do here, right? So I actually open a window. It's a nice sunny day here in Tennessee. It's a little chilly. It's a nice sunny day here in Tennessee, but I got one light that's pretty bright on the side of my face, and then I have some blue, greenish lights that are happening in the room, and then I've got kind of this fill light that's happening a little bit further off, so you get some depth. I really should get a second light is what I should do. And at the bird dog office, I used to have some big lights that would do that just for me. But, baby steps, everybody. Which it wouldn't take a very bright light to do. I just need to be able to adjust the Kelvin. And the one that I had at Bird Dog was actually quite a nice adjustable color. So I'm going to jump over here. Find out which one that was. Just put in light. I haven't ordered too many lights on Amazon, so actually maybe I've ordered more than I think I have. But this would have been like mid last year, maybe 2 years ago now. Everything that comes up as lightweight is also showing up in this list. Not those, although, well, wonder if these RGBs could do white. There's a question. So they come with an app. And I believe it's this one that it's running. If I say group control, can it do white? And what version of white can it do? I guess I could do more. Whoa. Not really, eh? So this is default. You can change the brightness, but it's not really, I guess maybe it's like warm white. I'm just nervous about turning on more lights in this room because I'm afraid of popping breakers right in the middle of the show again. Okay. Well, I might already have the resources I need to do that. Who knows? We will see. I'll test some things out when the stakes are not quite as high. For stage with multiple zones, it was more like 4-point lighting, adding in a hair light from behind. That is something we don't have, and I really wish we did. To separate the speaker from the background, we definitely need a hair light. And I wonder what the opportunity is to move it. For hair lights, it's not as important that the white doesn't match exactly. Yeah, I had a hair light at the bird dog office too that hung on the ceiling, which was very handy. But I could definitely put one there and have a hair light off camera. That would be a good idea. Okay, so now, all right, now I'm convinced that that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. So let's go. The word Kelvin doesn't show up. I'll put in 3,000, see what comes up there. 15 orders. Ooh, I had a Falcon Eyes. That's what I had. Those things are nice. A little overpriced for what they are. Whereas the other light that I had, I hate to look for the word LED because everything's got LEDs in it. Falcon Eyes. So it was right before that because I kind of bought a cheap one and then I was like, all right, here it is. Newer Professional. Okay, let me throw this up on the screen. Actually, I'll put 2 up on the screen. Like this. I'm not a huge fan of Windows 11, but when I am, I use the split screen option. Okay, so yoink. So here are the 2 lights that I had at Bird Dog. I bought both of them in 2022, about 6 months apart. The Falcon Eyes obviously is more expensive, but it was really nice. Now, it wasn't huge. Like these things come in all sorts of sizes, but it wasn't huge. It had definitely had fully adjustable coloration and everything. When I got it, I was like, yeah, this thing's going to be great. And then I was like, probably didn't need to, like, it probably wasn't worth what I ended up paying for it, which was like $150. But like these get ridiculously big, right? But this little one just worked really well. Now this guy ended up being great, like working just as well, honestly. You could adjust the temperature as you wanted, and check out that price. It's half the price of this thing. So dual battery banks on the back if you wanted to do something like that. The mount wasn't the best. Like it wasn't the best. The mount for the Falcon Eyes was clearly better, but the mount wasn't best. But you could get this thing up on a pole pretty much. I mounted this on a ceiling with just clamps, just shop clamps. Just clipped it up there, and it just provided enough. And it came with barn doors, which this thing does not have. So I put the barn doors on there, and I shaped the light a little bit, and it was great. So if I were to go again, I would probably do something like this. Wouldn't 2 of these be cheaper than 180? I don't understand that. But the other thing is, I don't need that sort of power. I need something that just generates a little bit of light. And so maybe there's a smaller version. Let's go ahead and make this full screen. Newer makes some very decent stuff. I don't know. It's like anybody else use this stuff? It's not like the highest brand, but it works pretty well. We use the Chevette VW variable white lights. They surprisingly also let you do individual colors like lime and deep blue. Variable white is very important. As you probably saw, it's important to me. As you saw on this, these are Chevette. These are Chevette. Edit? What did I say these were? Burnt. I need to get back to the... Anyways, these are Chevette. We just asked... It's been a long time since I've been in the lighting game. I used to do stage lighting for like college productions and stuff, and in high school as well. But as you can tell from the gray in my beard, it's been a few years since I've been to those places. So anyways, the way we break up our stage, by the way, is zone 1 through 3. There is like a little nook behind zone 2, which used to be used for storage, but now it's just kind of depth of field. But these 3 zones, we have people come up to microphones in zones 1 and 3, and then our music and our keynote are done in zone 2. So that's how we talk to our camera guys and our general tech team, just zones 1 through 3, and that's how that's done for us. Doesn't mean we do it correctly. Doesn't mean it's the only way it should be done. But it's definitely the way that we handle things. And select properties? No. Where... I need to go back to the previous screen. If we click edit, that's fine. If we click live, does it let me? No, that's just my presets it shows. Here we go. So these were Chevette Eve P140 variable whites. They work pretty great. I mean, I've been really happy with the white balance that we have. The issue is that we just haven't had control of the white balance, right? Because this analog board gives us analog presets basically, but I want to just dial it in. I don't want to sit around with sliders and do all this. I just want to dial it into the white that I am looking for. And so these have been really good. We will be playing with that though this afternoon. Hopefully we can like really get after it and get it done. But there you go. So yeah, it's going to be fun. For home studio, I use the Bestcore Spectre Little Baby Light, What about hair lights? Do you use these for hair lights? Because we could get another couple and put or get one or whatever. Halfway tempted to take two of them down and put them up here, but yeah. I actually think we're using too much light in our production. I'm sorry. Of course, I did all that. Take two of these down and put them up behind zone 2. Zone 2 is probably closer to the back. It's probably like back here. But anyway, I actually think we're using too much light. I mean, more light is better for the broadcast lenses, but I'd like to have the background darker. The problem is we just really have no control because the light just kind of splashes up there and it's up there. There's no real control of it. And we have some writing on these like banners that hang on the back wall that is also kind of distracting. So I'm trying to blur that as much as I can. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge to figure out what the right move is here, but yeah, all questions to be answered at a later date, unfortunately. Okay, yes, the Spectre for hair lights. Interesting. All right, let's look that up real quick while we have a minute. Biscore Spectre. Whoops. Okay. Let me show this to you. So I'm assuming this is what you're referring to. The Slims, what do you use? The L series? I mean, these are good prices. $50 or whatever. Comes with a little power adapter. Is a 2? Oh, with batteries. I see. Do you find them to be solid? Like just good quality? Channel, color. Got like no videos or anything here. I'd like to. No reviews even. I don't. Oh, whoa, look at that. Okay. Yeah, these little tripod stands you can get for like $15 or $10 or whatever. I have two of them that are for my virtual reality towers, VR towers, HTC Vive Pros, and they work really well. But this room is still kind of being unpacked. It's been being unpacked for a long time. So for stage, we use moving heads so they can could be beams during worship. So do you have those so they're mounted on the floor, I'm assuming? Is that how you're using? You're not using them for hair lights that way, are you? Shooting them out? Or you're using... Oh, I see what you mean. You have them mounted in front, and then you're angling. Okay, gotcha. What moving heads are you using? I'm so old that I remember like Mackie 250s and stuff, but or Mac 250s, not Mackie, Mac 250s. We ran a pair of those in college at a very small theater, and they cost us more than we were wanting to spend, but we ended up using them for all sorts of things, and they were great while they lasted. I think they lasted about 10 years. But do you know what brand you're using for moving heads? I know Chevette makes a lot. Chevette moving headlights. So, these are pretty common, like DJ lights. The Chevette DJ is basically just a light, Yeah, we use them as spots and even hair lights as if needed. Are they mounted in a place where you can use them as hair lights? Fascinating. The Intimidator series is a pretty well-known series. And at $700 a pop, I know Chevette makes their own videos and stuff. Oh my goodness. Did you hear that? No, it's not coming through the speakers. Okay. These are those moving heads. This is a church of some sort. I mean, I would love to add color. Wait, how are those mounted? How are those mounted? How are they doing that on the walls? Maybe they have more than... I think they have 4 at the bottoms and then some mounted in the... It's also cool the way... Look at this. They don't have any bleed over on the ceiling. They do, I mean, at the top here, but like these moving ones... How did they do that? That's pretty good. Something that I do want to look into. So this is cool. Thanks for sparking this interest. But what I do want to look at is, here we go. Rogue R1 beam wash for up top. Yes, on a truss in the back and truss on stage. They can be a wash or a beam. The Intimidator have loud fans, so we don't like them as much. So the Chevette Rogue R1 beam wash. Rogue R1 beam wash. So these rotors right here. Wash lights. Here we go. Chevette battery operated linear wash lights. Ooh, those are cool. All right, well, maybe I need to do this on a general. Rogue R1 beam wash. Chevette. There we go. Chevette Professionals. Ooh. All right, so this... What? Get out of here. Okay, let's just everybody chill out now. Let's go and... Let's just make this full screen. How many do you need to do that? Ooh. That's cool. Wow, that's a lot of lights. Calibrated white control. So that's interesting because at a glance... All right, so they're Pro line. So what, do I need to go to like Sweetwater for this? Brand, Chevette Pro. It's not this one, is it? R1X. Rogue R1E. Rogue One. Whoa. All right. They're a little pricey. Not the end of the world. But at $2,000 a pop, I won't be getting an array of them. I do like that they bundle. You could bundle two. Oh, save $15, everybody. I looked at where my where my camera used to be mounted. Sorry, Rogue is their pro line. You probably don't need that many. We just had one per zone, and we have 6 zones. Well, that's still a lot of money. Yeah, where to put them? Stage design. This gives me something to think about. I do love a moving head. This just gives you a lot more versatility, you know. And do we have a video here? No. Really should have a video here, guys. What's in this bundle? Okay, so there's probably a video here though, right? Why you would want to control any of these lights via the LCD screen, I have no idea. Ooh, 300 watts. Little cheaper. This one, slightly more expensive. RGBW LED. What's the difference here? Moving head, beam and wash, moving wash. Oh, this lets you have a beam. Okay. This one is a beam. DMX modes, 16 and 19. Well, that's a lot of channels. Whoa, look at the lumens on this. Dang. Beam angle. It can only be, it's not adjustable, so that's a problem. Yeah, you definitely want to adjust the angle. Pan, everything. Power consumption. The other one is considerably less, probably because of the brightness. Cool. And then it's, whoa, a third the weight. Jeez. All right, so this guy, I think, would still be the winner. It's a wiener. Fascinating. Excellent color mixing. Yeah. Now that we have this sort of like independent control over our lights, I would very much so be interested in expanding the light range of our rig. Sound isn't a big deal because we don't do a lot of ambient sound capture like a lot of traditional churches would. We are mostly all mic on. So there's some like people singing that we sometimes capture, but there's not many people at the actual soundstage. It's most people are online. So, but yeah, like making it look more professional. What I'd really like is to have more control over the stage, like as you would naturally. But the issue I have is that we don't have control over the lighting at the stage. Everything is basically all on. And then there's like an array of warm tones behind anybody we put up there. So there's like red brick, which is not, if you're going to do video, that's not your ideal because red pushes you to mix your video to be a little bit too cool to try and balance out that red brick look behind. Or otherwise, you get some like really red skin, your skin tones all look magenta. And that was a problem with the previous cameras we had. Now we've been able to weed a lot of that out with good lighting and good cameras, but I wish it was more of a blank slate where I could shine a light and I could change the mood of the room, right? I wish it was more gray or even white, even black. All that's fine. But when you have a color, a permanent color on stage, And then the other problem that I have is we have these seasonal banners that go up behind the keynote, and it's to break up the red brick, really, I think. But they're like earth tones and whatever. So I would rather make wider banners and make them more gray and then light them up with lights and get rid of this red background that we have. You could also hang a drape, you hang curtains or whatever, but I'm not too sure if how that would be received, because you're kind of covering up the aesthetics that somebody has spent a lot of time working on. So it's a challenge. It's like one of those things that red is a terrible color for a backdrop. Absolutely terrible. And let me tell you a little story about that. When I was a part of a school that was building a new multi-purpose room, and part of it was going to be for a theater. Well, the school colors were crimson and white. Okay. And they decided that in the theater space, they were going to order crimson curtains, and they were special orders. Okay. They were, like a custom order. And then they put them up, and then we tried to do theatrical productions in there, and the curtains had significant light bleed. And so we ended up ordering brand new curtains, black, which were standard theater curtains, and hanging those up, very heavy fabric, hanging those up, and they were fantastic, although you can't return the custom curtains that you ordered. So we had these red ones, which all the executives thought looked brilliant, and then we had the red ones all the theater people thought were terrible, because you couldn't do theater in the room. Now, spoiler alert, you can't really do theater in a multi-purpose room anyways. You can, but you have to make a lot of what's the word? Compromises. You have to compromise a lot. And so it takes you what could be the same amount of effort that you would put into making something highly professional. You have to put in a whole lot more effort to make it that caliber, because your resources are not what they should be, or what they, you have the wrong tools. So it takes a lot more time and effort and talent in order to pull off the same thing. So the people that are there have done a great job of pulling that off. Most of them are still there. But, if you start with the right tools to begin with, then it goes a lot smoother. Unfortunately, people who design spaces are not spaces where this sort of stuff is going to happen are not folks that do this all the time. Usually it's people with money. And so people with money want it to look a certain way, want it to sound or behave a certain way, and yada, yada, yada. I want it to look a certain way. And so that you kind of have to make compromises all the time when that's the case. Whereas if you're going to design your own recording space from the ground up, you might start with an all flat black room, or you might start with gray walls, or these are they're not white, but they're pretty bright. But if I shine a light on them, then I can turn them whatever color I want, which is very handy, because maybe I want to have a different look. Maybe today I'm feeling upset or angry, or maybe this is Earth Day and I want it to be green, or particularly feeling blue. I don't know. Maybe you want to change the look of your show. I can easily do that by just clicking a button. This is cozy, which doesn't come through. These are yellow right now. It doesn't really come through too well on the screen. But again, it doesn't take me long to change the color. I say group control. I want them to be blue. They're blue. If I'm feeling orange, I want it to be orange. I want it to be red, purplish. I can just throw those colors up there. It's really simple to do. But if all these walls were red, or my daughter's room is lime green, well, I'm kind of limited then, right? You can't it's not really a controllable space. And so if you're not willing to, if you're willing to give up that level of control, then I suppose that would be fine. But we're going for a certain look, and if you're going for a certain look, or if you're going for a controlled look so that you have diversity, then you're going to want to have a space with a flat color, with a shade, not a color. No colors. Black, gray, or white. I personally like a lighter wall because that gives me the ability to change whatever I need to. And I had a black curtain at Bird Dog, and that was okay, but I actually liked controlling the lights. These were the lights I had there. I actually preferred controlling the color of the show by my phone and just saying, make it blue, and then it was blue, or make it green. I had a hard time getting it close to Bird Dog green, but that's a different story for a different day. Okay, it is 11:45, so now I do need to sign off. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming along for the ride. I really appreciate it, and have we had any glitches today? Has the stream dropped at all? I'm going to look at the stream health. Doesn't really say anything, so maybe not. Let me know in the chat or come by next week. I will tell you a little bit more about the lighting rig when we get it kind of set up today, and we'll try and cover some of that next week. Also, though, be sure to tune in to Bird Dog's new show on Monday. That's 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern, or 1 p.m. PST. So go ahead and put that on your calendar. It will be in the Bird Dog user group over on the Facebook group. I have nothing to do with it, but you should be there to see what Dan Miley has to say. So he's a good dude, and he understands the industry well, and so it would be good to see him on a live stream, especially if they're going to be consistent with it and go every week. That would be impressive. That's actually you want somebody, you want a face to a company, and Dan is probably the right guy for that job. So he's good on camera. He's good with fielding questions. It'll be interesting to see what he does with some of the support stuff, but all the more power to you, man. I hope that goes really well for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with it. So join them over on the Bird Dog user group at 4 p.m. Central to check out whatever it is that Bird Dog is planning to do. Oh, that's interesting. Hang on here. Let's just see. Zach says, hey, we should do a streaming party on that day. Yeah, maybe. A streaming party of the stream. And I should get some Bird Dog employees to join me. That would be hilarious. What a great idea. Let me think about that. If you see something pop up on my YouTube page, we'll maybe roll with that, but that'd be funny. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Always appreciate you. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so to the channel. Always appreciate new followers. And we will look forward to Monday when we see what Bird Dog has to say on their live stream. And then again next Thursday. That is the plan. I will be back with you. So take care of yourselves. We will check in with you soon. Be well. And have a great weekend. Cheers, guys. Bye.